It's ZoTime.
Keys on the track.
What time is it? What time is it? What time is it? What time is it?
Greetings and salutations. It's the Beast Mode Beast, Big Zo, aka Kawan Desmond Owens. All right, so this is episode number 2 of ZoTime TV. Told you guys I was going to try my best to be consistent. So week number 2, coming back at you like I promised I would try my best to do. So I've been really excited and looking forward to this opportunity to chat with you guys again. Today I decided that because today is May 11th, which means May 11, 2019, which means that tomorrow, May 12th, is Mother's Day. I want to give a shout out to all the mamas, the baby mamas, the grandmas, TTs, aunties, everything else. And also I want to acknowledge, while I'm giving love to all the ladies out there that are in the caregiver role of somebody, I want to also acknowledge that when it comes to holidays, I know a lot of times when people think about holidays, they're thinking about, Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, New Year's, those type of holidays. But even, I guess you could say, smaller holidays, like Mother's Day, it's a time for people who have experienced loss, and it can be kind of triggering. So myself, just a little self-disclosure, I lost my mother about 3 years ago. So I know that for some people who have either experienced loss in their life, whether it's losing their mom, their grandma, somebody important to them, or if you're a mother and you've lost a child or had an abortion or a miscarriage or stillbirth, something like that, these are the kinds of things that can be really triggering. So this, along with some other issues that have arisen lately, have prompted me to think that today might be a good time for me to check in with my soldiers, my family, YouTube, face, checking with all you guys, just kind of do a status check-in as far as how are you doing? How are you? So that being said, suicidality, let's just go ahead and rip the bandage off. That is a reality. So often people are dealing with depression and anxiety, and they feel hopeless. We have what's called thought distortions. Our brain tricks us into thinking that things are a lot worse than they sometimes are. Not to say that you might not be going through some stuff. You might be going through a lot of really heavy stuff. And this video isn't necessarily going to be the 10 steps, 12 steps, 5 steps, or what exactly to do when you're feeling suicidal. But I just want to kind of, number one, let you know that there are resources out there. Number two, there's people that care about you. Even if I don't know you, I care about you. I consider myself to be in a helping profession. And I just wanted to kind of throw out a few little nuggets of wisdom. Hopefully, they'll stick. Hopefully it'll resonate to somebody. But just know that whether you've dealt with some loss, whether you are feeling hopeless, you're feeling sad, you're feeling lonely, you're not alone. There's always somebody out there that can relate to what you're going through, that can relate to how you're feeling. And the most important thing that we can do is to open up, to share those feelings, to find somebody who is willing to listen. So whether that is a trained professional, whether that's getting yourself hooked up with a therapist, a counselor, a mental health professional, a priest, clergy, whatever it could be, or just talking to your BFF, your mama, your auntie, your cousin, your daddy, your brother, your sister, your friend, your acquaintance. Turn that acquaintance into a friend, a trusted confidant, your wife, your spouse. There's so many people out there, and we often feel like we have to go through it alone. Our society has taught us that stoicism is the name of the game, that if we open up to others about our feelings, that leaves us vulnerable, and it does. But vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is strength. So what I want to say is that what I know about suicidality is that it's a lot more common than people understand. People feel like they don't want to talk about those feelings of despair, those feelings of suicidality, because as soon as they do, they're going to be put somewhere for a 72-hour hold, or they're going to be put in a straitjacket or whatever. The reality is that there's an assessment process that often happens. And I want to normalize it a little bit. There's probably not too many people that at one point or another in their life haven't felt, I don't want to say suicidal, but had suicidal ideations. That's like the thoughts in your brain that make you think, what would it be like if I weren't here? Would things be better? Would this pain be over? Would it be good? Would it be helpful? Would I be less of a burden on the world? We all have those thought distortions, those feelings, from time to time. But the difference is when those feelings become so severe to the point that you're actually starting to think, maybe I'll act on this. Maybe I'll develop a plan. Maybe I will start to devise a way to eliminate myself from this world. So what I want to say, guys, is that oftentimes when we feel suicidal, when we are feeling like we want to give up, like we want to give in, um, it usually is associated with a feeling of hopelessness. Hopelessness is usually associated with a feeling of powerlessness. Like I felt like I've done all that I can do, and there's really nothing left to give. So when people feel powerless, it's because they feel like they don't have options. So number one, I do want to say this, and please don't mince my words. Don't misinterpret this. Don't just take this small little blurb and run with it. But understand, suicide is an option. It's not a good option. It's not the best option. It's not an option that I want anybody to take and use. But I do want you to know that you're the boss of your behaviors. So do know and recognize that it is always an option that's on the table. But I want you to know that it's one that you should not take. I'm really, really encouraging you to find alternatives to this. But by saying suicide is not an option, by saying that you cannot do it, that you shouldn't, I agree that you shouldn't. But by saying that you can't do it, then that's just another example of taking power away from you. But knowing that it's a choice, and it gives you even more power when you decide to not choose that choice. For instance, if somebody is dieting, it's always a choice to go to the drive-thru in McDonald's and order 5 number 7s, 2 number 2s, and 4 number 8s. It's not a good choice. So my point is you can do it, but you should not do it. The reality is that most people don't necessarily want to die. Most people want to end their pain. Most people want to end their suffering. If we can find a way to end whatever negativity is we're feeling, to eliminate the difficulties from our lives, obviously, that would be ideal. But some things, you had to say the serenity prayer on because you can't always have full control of your life. You have to ask God to grant you the serenity to accept the things you cannot change, the courage to change the things you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So that's where I think we should start. Just consider, are there circumstances in my life that are beyond my control? And if they are, is there anything I can do about it? Because if it's beyond your control, the answer is probably not. But you want to be able to maybe, whether it's prayer, whether it's meditation, whether it's visualization, whether it's finding good, healthy coping skills so that you can address the situation, then just knowing that there's some mechanisms, some outlets out there to help you to overcome some of those difficulties. Number two, finding somebody that you trust and you care about. One thing that can really exacerbate negative feelings is that feeling of loneliness. And sometimes we make that feeling that much worse when we isolate ourselves from others. When we're like, I'm just going to take this cross, this burden, it's mine to bear, and we feel like we can't open up to people. But honestly, that's usually what makes things that much more difficult because you're trying to go at it alone. A good friend will be an empathetic friend. So there's a difference between empathy and sympathy, and I'll be happy to share a link to a Brene Brown video about empathy versus sympathy, or you can Google it, you can YouTube it. It's pretty easy to find. Just type in empathy versus sympathy. That kind of talks about the power of being able to connect with somebody and join with them and just kind of hear them out. You might not have experienced what they've experienced, but all of us have experienced. We've all experienced happiness. We've all experienced joy. We've all experienced grief. We've all experienced sadness. We've all experienced anger. We've all experienced frustration. These are all feelings that everybody can relate to on some level. So even if you haven't experienced the exact same feeling that somebody else has experienced, you can probably relate to that emotion they have. And joining with somebody, just let them know, hey, I feel you. What you're describing really sucks. I can think of a time that I've felt that pain and I want to be here for you, whatever that looks like, whatever you need. If there's any kind of way that I can support you in going through that, then I'm here for you. So just being able to join with somebody and let them know, okay, this is somebody who loves me. This is somebody who cares about me. This is somebody I can trust and confide in. That's how you can be a caregiver. It doesn't take a master's degree, a license in social work or psychology, a PhD. It doesn't take any of that to just be there for somebody, letting them know that you are genuine, you are compassionate, and you are there for them unconditionally. Um, so just like pro wrestling for me is kind of my coping skill and my outlet, something that I do that helps me to feel good about myself, that gives me the endorphins, that gives me, that high when I come out there and I'm able to hear a reaction, a response from fans who are enjoying, watching my work. Like that's one of my coping skills. Another constant reminder, if I'm ever feeling down or I feel kind of unmotivated or need that energy to go on, is this. I'm not a veteran. I do work with veterans, but I'm not a veteran. So hopefully nobody looks at me wearing a dog tag as me being a perpetrator. But what this actually says, and I don't know if you can read it, but it's okay if you can't. But it's my name, my wife's name, and my two children's names. So if I'm ever feeling down in the dumps, then I can just kind of look at this and remind myself, this is why you're here. This is what you're focused on. This is what motivates you. This is what drives you. This is your reason for being. Now you have to always find things that inspire you and fill you, like that fill your bucket, I guess you could say. So figure out what those things are for you. So maybe it's talking to people, maybe it's helping people, maybe it's animals, pets, whatever it could be. But just know that there are so many things in this world that you can do to give back, but also to give to yourself. Love yourself, because you're not going to do any good trying to help anybody else in the world if you're not putting the oxygen mask on yourself. So make sure that you're kind to yourself. You remind yourself of all of the strengths and the positive affirmations you have. If you're smart, if you're kind, if you're beautiful, if you're imaginative, you're creative, you have somebody in your life that's important to you, that cares about you, just keep feeding yourself those positives, because it's really difficult when we are in those state of thought distortions and we're constantly beating ourselves down with all the negativity. Then that's when the devil can kind of have his way with you. And I'm not getting overly religious with you guys, but I mean, it's just a reality that we can allow ourselves to trick ourselves in that way. So of course there's all kinds of songs, there's all kinds of resources related to suicidality. I do want you to know that I don't know where in the country you are. If you're in Louisville and Kentucky, there's always Centerstone, there's Gravens and Associates, my place. I know a ton of great therapists I could refer folks to. But just know that a good starting point is the National Suicide Hotline, 1-800-273-8255. So that's 1-800-273-8255. So just because you are checking in, you're making a phone call, and you're telling somebody about your feelings, that doesn't mean that they're going to, like I mentioned before, put you in a straitjacket, lock you up, and throw away the key. The whole purpose is to help you and to make sure that you're going to not make an irreversible decision based on an impulsive decision. Because we all feel down, but when, there's no continues, when it's game over as far as life goes. So know that there's always that positive future if you allow yourself to stick through it long enough. Is suicide an option? Yes. Is it one you should take? Never. Never, 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 never. Life is too precious. It's a gift. So let's find the strength in it. Let's find the beauty in it. And let's stay motivated and inspired to live our best life. All right. So I know this probably wasn't like the fun, big pro wrestling video that maybe some folks were hoping for today, but I felt really inspired and I felt compelled to be able to share this message with you guys. So 1-800-273-8255. Please call that number if you need it. And don't wait until things get so bad that they're irreversible, that you're self-harming and that you're doing things that you can't take back. Because things can and they will get better if you decide that they will. So you have to make that decision. Don't slide into negative decisions. Decide to make good decisions. So I'm Big Zo, Kwan Owens. Much love to you. Happy Mother's Day. Make sure that you tell the people you care about that you care about them. And just always look for that thing that inspires you and drives you and feeds your soul. All right. Much love, guys. I look forward to checking in with you next week. Hopefully, maybe something a little bit more upbeat. But I thought this was a really important message that I would be remiss if I didn't share. So take care. Much love.
It's ZoTime.